Hello everyone and welcome to Season 2, Episode 31 of the Crawley Town Supporters Alliance Simply Reds podcast. My name is Reuben and I'm joined by Luke. How are you doing, Luke?
24 hours ago I'd have been on cloud 9 and today I'm probably on a cloud 6. So, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good.
That's what we like to hear. And I'm also joined by Louie. You okay, Louie?
Evening, gents. Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Reuben. Yeah, I'd say I'm a cloud 6.5, cloud 7, if we're using that as a scale. Still very upbeat despite last night's heartbreak.
Yeah. Well, I might as well say I'm probably on the cloud 7 at the moment, I think.
We'll start every pod now with defining how we are out of a cloud of 1 to 9
that means.
or something.
No idea what that means.
Yeah.
So since our last podcast, we've come off with 1 win, 1 loss. But let's start on the high then, our win. We went to New York and came back with 3 points as we played Rotherham United, with the then manager being Stevie Evans. You either love him or you loathe him. We had 3 different goal scorers, Doyle, Holohan and Kamara. And Luke, it seemed like we were in paradise, didn't it, after that result?
Yeah, I mean, I would have argued we were in paradise even after Bristol Rovers, to be honest with you. Just getting a win was nice, but getting 2 on the belts, which we haven't done since the first 2 games of the season, is, doubly happy. But, obviously it sort of came a bit more back down to earth yesterday and realising we're not invincible, even with Scott Lindsay in the dugout. But yeah, Saturday was just unlike... I was speechless seeing the goals fly in, one after the other. It was a phenomenal performance. We made them look particularly... They've had a bad season, Rotherham. Let's make no sort of bones about it. But we put them to the sword, and we've done what we haven't done to other teams this season when we've maybe had opportunities. We were solid defensively, although they did hit the woodwork a couple of times, but I think so did we. But overall, yeah, I mean, there was a team 11 fantastic performances on Saturday, and everything fell into place. And it was probably the game where we were all sitting there going, okay, well, we know Bristol Rovers are horrific away from home, so Scott got the right team at the right time, arguably. So this is going to be the real test. And yet it was an even easier game than the Bristol Rovers one. We couldn't stop scoring if we tried by the sounds of it. And even Gavin Holohan getting on the score sheet with, I'd argue, the second best goal out of the 4. Everything that fell for us could. Kamara bagging as well. It was a class from start to finish. It was fantastic.
And Louie, after the game, were you beginning to plan your away games for League One next season, or were you able to stay grounded?
I'm certainly got more of a mind to maybe look at who we could be playing in League One next season. I think I said after the Bristol Rovers game, I still think we've got just a little bit too much to do. But that being said, I'm keeping up my deluded optimism that I've been going on for the last however many weeks. I still think, all the signs are good. All the signs are good. We've got favourable fixtures. We're putting in some really good performances, playing some brilliant football. We've got goals in us now, which we were struggling with towards the end of Rob's tenure. And I think, we've got... I mean, I know we've gone to a Rotherham team that have been very up and down, more down than up, but to sort of take them apart in the way that we did, some of the football. I mean, my favourite goal might have been Panucci's, purely because the run, it's 2 midfielders. You've got Liam Fraser running down the right, and then a lovely little back heel inside the defender, Panucci running onto it. Gets a lot of luck with the deflection, but I mean, we've said it how many times this season? That's luck that we've not had that very often. How many times have we seen that sort of...
us, isn't it? More than anything.
Exactly. How many times have we seen that sort of thing happen against us? So, that was... I just loved... Some of the football's brilliant. Some of the passing through the lines was brilliant. I thought that it was probably one of our best performances of the season, if not the best. Probably better than Bristol Rovers from start to finish, I would say. And yeah, just not a single individual came off that pitch with less than a 7 out of 10 probably. And yeah, another shout out to Kamari Doyle, he's a ridiculous player, isn't he? He's just I'm kind of running out of words to describe him. He's just very, very good at football, and we're quite lucky to have him at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on Doyle in a bit, but one player who probably did get less than a 7, and that's Harry Forster. Lasted 10 minutes.
Came on even Harry gets a 7.
Second minute.
It's the best 10 minutes of his season, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I should imagine we probably won't see him again this season. I think he's been really unfortunate with injuries. I mean, injuries is what cost him not being able to play at Wembley last season when he got injured. Was it Milton Keynes where he actually got...
Yeah, second leg, I think, wasn't it? He had to go off.
Yeah, which is a shame because I think Crawley fans, if he was playing regularly, he would definitely be a fan favourite. Even right now, though, people do still love him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a regular run of games over the winter, didn't he? And I mean, he got his own song. He was looking like one of our more consistent, reliable players, and certainly the defensive side of his game had improved. You know, some of the tackles he was putting in, the sheer work rate and the energy and the pace that he brought down the right or left hand side, whichever side he was playing. And I think we've probably missed that in recent weeks where we've not had that as an option. And certainly last night, if he'd have been able to come on, he probably would have if he'd been available over maybe Swan to kind of take over on the left hand side from Kelly. So it's a real shame for him that he's not going to be able to play a part in the end of the season because he'd be a really useful outlet out wide, either from the start or off the bench.
Well, I actually think if he'd have been on the pitch yesterday, we wouldn't have lost that game 4-3. Because I think if you look, I know we aren't necessarily touched on the game yet, but if you look at the goals we conceded, Charlie Barker, bless him, is sort of left in two minds about whether to come over and track in the middle and leave a man out wide on his own. Because Armando naturally is a more forward-thinking player, and so doesn't necessarily track back as well as what Harry Forster did do so well, which earned him plaudits earlier in the season. And I guess you have to now ask questions about, assuming, I'm pretty sure he's out of contract in the summer, is whether or not this will potentially the last we've seen of Harry Forster in a Crawley shirt as well.
I wonder if a lot of that depends on which league we end up in, I guess. And that's a difficult thing with the position we're in, especially now it looks like we've got a much better chance of staying up than we did maybe 10 days ago. It's kind of difficult to plan for the summer because there's certain players who, if we were going back down to League Two, you think, yeah, they'll do a job. But there's certain players who you maybe think if we're staying in League One, we probably may need to move on. Now, I'm not saying Harry's necessarily one of them, but it's the case, possibly a case for him and a few players that their future might depend on whether we're in League One or League Two, especially with Harry's injury. If it's a long-term injury or if it's just a few weeks, we don't know.
Yeah, so Harry has played 25 matches for us this season. 16 of those are starts, so that'll give us 9 as substitute appearances. Played 1,464 minutes, 2 goals, 2 assists.
Who was his second goal against? I remember the first one was Reading, wasn't it? Away at Reading. So I cannot for the life of me think who his other goal would have been against.
I couldn't picture. I barely could think of him. I can't think of him scoring this season, to be honest.
No,
yeah,
he's not a natural.
I feel like it was at home, but
it was at home to Stevenage.
Oh, of course, it was the opener against Stevenage a few weeks. Yeah, of course it was.
It was, yes.
Of course,
yes. He got man of the match for that, or player of the match.
Yeah,
That
deservedly so.
was a really good finish as well. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah. I think I would have him in. I would still have him next season. I think, regardless of what division we're in. But equally, though, it's easy to say when we're not the ones running the budget of a club where realistically we won't be afforded a big squad anyway. So he'd be potentially a great squad player if we stayed up, but that might potentially take away from signing another player who might be a bit more impactful, someone who could potentially start. But again, that's possibly doing him a disservice. But yeah, again, the numbers haven't been phenomenal, and equally injuries have to play a part in decision making. So, yeah, he's played potentially half the season effectively, similar to Dion Conroy. So decisions have to be made. It's a cruel sport sometimes when it comes down to contracts and careers.
It is. But one player which we probably won't see next season, and that's Kamari Doyle. Louis, do you think he's one of the best players to wear the Crawley Town shirt?
I think in terms of pure ability, certainly in my lifetime, in my sort of 22, 23 years of going to Crawley, I think he's got to be. I mean, he's almost inevitable at this point. You get to the ball and you just know something's going to happen. His assist for. I mean, I know again we're not talking about the Peterborough game yet, but his assists against Peterborough last night was just pure determination and just his ability to keep hold of the ball and make something happen. And then the two finishes at Rotherham, since we're talking about the Rotherham game, just unbelievable. Like there's the technique on both of them actually. The first one obviously gets a bit more attention because it's a bit flashier, it's outside the box or just inside the box. But I thought the second one, the way he's got the ball out of his feet, he's kind of taken the time to compose himself, and then it's a really interesting technique where he's kind of dug the ball out a little bit and it's still just skimmed along the pitch into the bottom corner. But it's a brilliant bit of improvisation, a brilliant finish. He's just, he feels inevitable, doesn't he? He's either going to score, he's going to create something, his work rate as well is really impressive. For a 19-year-old on loan from a Premier League club, you might not necessarily expect him to be as kind of motivated, or perhaps he might think he's above it a little bit, especially a team in a relegation fight in League One, especially at a club like ours, which is much smaller than most clubs at this level. But his attitude, his work rate and his application, he's really impressed me. And so, I'd say on a technical level, sorry, that's a really long way of answering your question, Reuben, but on a technical level, I think he's up there. And he's certainly one of the best loan players I've ever had. I'm thinking Carlin Grant is up there. But I think he'll be better than Carlin Grant. Yeah, I think he's
our best loan player ever. Would you reckon, Rubes? I reckon he's a shoo-in for best loan player ever.
I think so. Why do you say loan player? Do you think we've had a better player?
Well, I don't think he's. I don't think we've seen him long enough to claim he's the best.
That's what it is. If we've had him for the whole season,
Crawley Town football history. I think he's had a good few months. So I think best loan player is a fair shout, but I don't think you can give him the jersey of best we've ever seen in a red shirt necessarily for various reasons. You could look at
6 more games. If he scores maybe 6 more goals or something, then he might well be. I mean, in terms of pure ability, there's got to be some players from maybe, I don't know. I'm struggling, to be honest.
I mean, Isaac McLeod, for instance, scored 20 goals in a team that got relegated from League One last time. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's players who've gone above and beyond Matt Tubbs as well. I'm not saying he's better than Kamari Doyle, don't get me wrong, but you look at their output for what they did over a period of time at Crawley. You have to weigh that into potential. I think there's a whole pod in itself, potentially arguing who's the best player. We each come with 3 options and we have to argue over it, because I feel he's class, isn't he? Last night, did he hit the post? He hit the bar from the free kick. Was he the one who hit the post in open play as well?
After Russian's goal. Yeah,
he's just anything.
If that goes in, I think we go on to win the game.
100%. And it's a game of fine margins. He's a phenomenal talent, and it's mental to think we've had him since January, and he's done well. If you look at the stats before Scott came in, his stats were actually still really good. It didn't feel like that though, not because he wasn't playing well, but because we were getting nothing from matches and performances weren't necessarily there as a team. It just felt like we were clawing over the line with some games. So, I feel like it's a shame that we haven't necessarily got to enjoy the vein of form as positively as what we are experiencing now. But there is still time for that to change.
Yeah. But we'll bring 3 players to the table. I'll bring Cabbage.
No, I was just about to say, you're not bringing him to the table, mate. How's the statue going, by the way? Is it coming along nicely?
I was what, sorry?
The statue, is it coming along nicely?
Oh, lovely, thank you. Yeah, lovely. Yeah,
fantastic.
building it in my back garden now. So should we move on to the Peterborough game, which I know we're all dying to speak about and relive every single minute of it. So we lost 4-3 in the game which saw Armando, Kelly and Hepburn Murphy get on the score sheet. Now, I actually think it's the third league game in a row we've played Peterborough where we've ended up losing 4-3.
Third league, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which is like an incredible stat. And it's definitely a game for the neutral. I remember somebody messaged me being like, good game. I'm like, it is a good game. Like, if you're not a Crawley fan,
on an objective level, yeah.
Yeah. It's everything you want in the game. You've got a first half hat trick, and you've got a last minute penalty. Oh, incredible.
I'll be honest, it doesn't make me feel any better. It doesn't make me feel any better about it. Everyone's saying, Scott's saying, oh yeah, great for football fans, great blah. It's not great if you're a Crawley fan. It's pretty rubbish, actually, to be honest with you, mate. Waking up this morning and realising we lost a game we should have won, which there's a few times we've become accustomed to not getting what we deserve from games this season. But yesterday was sort of the biggest kick in the teeth because I get it as well. A point is almost useless to us. We sort of, it feels like we have to get a win or we might as well lose because a point is effectively a loss in a way. I feel like we sort of need to churn those 3 points out now and get those on the board before we can worry about just scraping points to get over the line. So
we still would have made up a little bit of ground on Bristol Rovers, who obviously lost late on to another Jay Stansfield penalty. But yeah, it feels like a massive missed opportunity, especially considering we should have won. We did more than enough to win. We were excellent, and just it's literally. I mean, apart from the fact that it was a last minute goal rather than in the 75th minute or whatever it was, it's almost a carbon copy of the game at their place in December, where we go there, we come back, we get back to 3-3. They keep hitting us on the counter. They keep exposing us down the sides. They get the fourth goal, and it's just a real sickener, isn't it? Really,
they're a ridiculous team. Absolutely ridiculous team. They are so average, arguably trash from sort of midfield to back and backwards. But they've got like 3 players on the pitch, arguably 4. Who you just give them the ball or give them space, and no one is catching them for love nor money. Like they are, it's just outrageous. They've got some class players up top, and that's naturally how Peterborough, I feel like, have always sort of been that sort of team who go out and excite and score goals in games. And there's a reason why, you look at the stats, and their sort of stats for goals scored and conceded outweigh everyone else's in that part of the division. But yeah, we should have won the game. The game we scored good goals, and I felt like the goals they scored were we made our own downfall sort of thing. I think that's what's the most frustrating thing about it. Almost every goal was avoidable. The second one was really frustrating. I think, was it the first one where the guy finished it first? No, it was the guy when he got his hat-trick goal where he was sort of left with miles of space in the box, and you just think, how is that possible that he's been left there? And I guess we've run the risk of it with how we play, but we were dead by the end of the game. And I will say I don't think the subs were particularly helpful in that towards the end of the game as well. I thought that really threw us off balance because as soon as a couple of those players came on, we sort of really struggled to get at them. But we're playing with much more energy than where we have been.
Yeah. So, on the subs, and that's kind of what I was thinking. If we'd have had Harry Forster available just to come off the bench on the left-hand side, because there was a couple of times where Swan got down the left and he just didn't quite have the pace and the wasn't able to drive at the defence and cut inside in the same way that perhaps Forster would have. And, I mean, one thing that you get with Forster is he's going to get in behind constantly. He's got the energy, he's got the pace. And I feel like, it's just one of those things. We could probably sit here for hours and talk about every single little detail, couldn't we? Little things that could have, would have, should have. We could have gone 4-3 up. We should never have conceded a fourth. Although, to be fair, there was that ridiculous goalmouth scramble. I think it was on the 90th minute or something like that.
I think around then.
Yeah, or it might be the 92nd minute, I think, just a few minutes before the penalty. Which was a penalty, by the way. I give refs a lot of stick, but I've got no complaints about that particular decision from the match official last night. But yeah, just there's a lot of sort of sliding doors moments in that game, and it feels like we've had so many of those games this season where just sliding doors moments. If a chance had gone in, or if something had gone the other way, and I just hope it's not one that we're looking back at the end of the season and going, if only, because we've had this before with Peterborough at their place all those years ago when they relegated us in 2015.
Yeah,
we should have. I mean, we were 3-2 up. Remember, Josh Simpson scored a beautiful goal to put us 3-2 up. I think it was against his former club, and we all thought that was it. We were going to stay up, and we would have stayed up if we won that game. That's the kicker. So I'm really hoping that we don't end up in a similar situation this year. It won't just be because of this game. Let's be real. It'll be because of we've not been good enough in large periods of form. But yeah, it's one of those you just feel sick coming away from it. And what I hope is that the players don't have their confidence knocked, because they were clearly playing with so much confidence. At least up until the equaliser, I thought. And then when they equalised, you kind of felt like we had a wobble where naturally, like the team lower, still, in the relegation zone, you can see you can have a little bit of a wobble mentally. And we've seen that so many times this season. But I thought we did a really good job of getting back into the game. And then we showed a lot of spirit and a lot of fight. And I hope that, I think Scott's biggest job this week is just to keep their confidence up and keep their chins up and say, look, you play brilliantly. Don't worry too much about the goals you conceded, because there's not many other teams that can hurt you other than Peterborough in the way that they did with the pace and the sheer. Just they've just got so much pace and physicality and dribbling ability up front. It's a really unique kind of team to play against in that sense. You're not going to get many teams, not even like a Peterborough. Not even like a Birmingham or a Wrexham can hurt you like that. Not even like or a Wickham. They're all very different teams, but I've not seen a team quite like Peterborough since forever, really, other than Peterborough earlier in the season. Like, it's just such a weird team to play against. It's not really one that you can kind of set up against tactically, because you're going to be open on the counter at some points, no matter what you do. And so, I would say just don't worry about it. It's a freak sort of result in a way. Just you play brilliantly, keep your chins up, play like that on Saturday, and we'll be absolutely fine.
I do. Yeah. What do you think, Rubes? I reckon that was a better performance than Bristol Rovers, for example. Certainly in terms of longevity, I think we were great against Bristol Rovers for 45 minutes, and the second half was about us just maintaining and sort of almost holding that league, because we obviously hadn't won in about what felt like 100 years. But yeah, I just thought overall that performance yesterday, looking back on it, actually, we were really good still. Like, we didn't lose because we just lost because of moments of lapses, and it's like that can happen. Unfortunately, it happened 4 times. But I thought we was worthy of a point, if not 3. I don't think that's unfair to say.
No, I think you're right. I think we played really, really well. I mean, the third team now, well, they're fans, the third teams are fans, if that makes sense, in a way that have said we look like Barcelona, which, I mean, is like, if we were told that fans would be saying that a month ago, we'd stamp your hand off. I think where we're going to fall down this rest of the season, and why I probably won't stay up, is the fact that football can be like that. It can kick you in the teeth when you least expect it. And whilst we can play well over the course of however many games are left, because of what football does and its unpredictability, I think we'll just fall short, which is a shame. And we saw this Tuesday night that Ibrahim has got another yellow card. I think he's now 2 yellow cards off a 3-match ban.
It's incredible. It really is.
I'm surprised he wasn't sent off, to be fair.
He's like Jay Williams, but like he kind of goes under the radar because he's not as like angry as Jay Williams. Like it's just he might as well just start the game in the booking. Save the referee might as well just write his name on the back of the card or whatever it is, or his number. I don't know quite what they write, and just be done with it. Just say, right, I've got that prepared for when you make a stupid tackle or you trip someone up in the 15th minute. And I wonder, like, I don't feel like he's actually a particularly dirty player. I'm not looking at him thinking, with Jay, you knew that he had a bit of a strong challenge in him, shall we say. You knew he was liable to leave his mark. Whereas with Ibrahim, you kind of just feel like he's just not that. He's not usually. He doesn't strike you as that sort of player.
I think we'd be surprised at how many are actually for dissent. I think he's definitely had a few for dissent, and I think also just squaring up to people as well. I think it's cost him a couple. So I don't necessarily think it's because he's a dirty player in terms of challenges. I actually think he's been quite unlucky because I think he's quite smart with challenges and tackling. But yeah, he's got 2 yellow cards left in him. We've got 6 games left, so he's basically going to walk a tightrope now for the next. We either have to play him cautiously and say, you know what, we're going to leave you out of games X, Y, Z if we can, because we need you for the final stretch of 6 games we've got. So we're going to have to be a bit tactical about it. Miss Birmingham, for example, or you know what I mean. So I don't know, but yeah, he's just got to be a bit smarter. And we maybe now have to manage him in games potentially if he's walking tight ropes, and referees are starting to pick up on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the issue is with Louie Watson out injured. It doesn't sound like he's going to keep him out for too long. He might be back perhaps by Leyton Orient or the Easter weekend, so he'll be back for the final few games. But that sort of deep lying midfield role, we've got Liam Fraser who can sort of do a job there, but it does feel like that's Bradley's spot, that kind of deep lying midfield role. If he does get suspended, and it'll be for 3 games, so he's basically out for say he gets suspended against Leyton Orient, he's basically missing the rest of the season. And it's a case of, well, you need a solution then. And that would be a real worry for me because he's physically quite capable as well. He doesn't get pushed off the ball much. He's very smart as well in receiving the ball and beating the press. So I'd be really worried if Bradley's one of the players. Like, I think we haven't got anyone who can quite do his role in the team.
Oh no, we're so devoid of that. I said that's got to be the first thing we look at in the summer, that Jay Williams, Bradley Ibrahim role, because we need a player like that going into next season, regardless of what division we're in. I think it's integral to how Scott wants to play football, having that sort of midfield general in there as well, who can sort of sweep up and protect the back line a bit as well.
Can I make a rogue shout? Actually, I think, Luke, you might have suggested this yesterday when we were talking before the game. Charlie Barker, he's step up into midfield possibly. I know Scott's used him there in the League Cup earlier this season. It might have been against Swindon. And I think he started the Lincoln game there, I want to say, a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago. Going back a few weeks. So I wonder, and he's quite comfortable on the ball. He's obviously naturally defensively quite solid. So I wonder if that would be something that we might look at. I wouldn't be surprised if Scott says, because we've got Ben Radcliffe back, we'll have Dion back in the next week or so possibly. So you have that defensive cover as well at centre back. But obviously, you've got Tanamu and Feely to
have we?
Just in terms of depth, whether it's good depth.
Oh, as in you mean they exist? They are. They do. They.
I don't want to be harsh.
They are real people.
I don't want to be harsh. Yeah.
Right.
But in terms of centre back, we're probably fairly well stocked at centre back in that sense. So if we needed to move Barker up into midfield, I don't know. It's a bit of a rogue shout maybe, but I think we've seen it before. And I think he's quite comfortable on the ball. I think he would be. I wouldn't be against him playing there.
Yeah, I think with going back to Ibrahim, I think his reputation probably succeeds him a little bit in the fact that I'm guessing referees probably do a bit of looking and analysis on the teams that they're going to be playing and see that, he's got, 12 yellow cards. So he's obviously a player who's known to foul a lot. And so any foul, you snap it out early and give him a yellow card to warn him. So whether that's kind of part of it. And Luke, how do you think this should be played then? So do you think you say to Ibrahim, you'd be like, calm down?
No, you don't change your play. You don't change your style at all. You can't. You start trying to mess around with who he is. Sorry to interrupt, but I know where that's going. That you can't change the player who he is. If he starts changing trying to change his style, that's where we start seeing him second guess himself and potentially have worse performances. He needs to carry on playing how he plays football. What we need to do is manage him, I think, and sort of maybe just gauge if there are games we can maybe either bring him off early or maybe just give it a miss in general, i.e. we look at Birmingham, for example, and, someone said to me the other day, does Scott do a Barrow from his first season where we go up and just sort of bin it off and focus on the game on the following Saturday sort of thing? And it's like, well, they're both, I guess, equally in the same position in terms of the next game's always going to be more important, and we need 3 points as much then as we do now. So it's like, well, it's not the worst idea in the world, but equally, if we take Ibrahim out of the Birmingham game, we
might not have a choice.
Will that affect the outcome as much as taking out, your Hepburn Murphys, your Charlie Parkers, blah, 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 in terms of there's potential other people who could at least be in the midfield? Could Kamara do a job where you just ask him to sit as that number 6? Because I must admit, I'm not particularly, as I've said a few times this season, Kamara's sort of flattered to deceive, in my opinion, outside of that second 45 on Saturday. And I don't think you can change Bradley Ibrahim's style of play, because that's what's got him to being in Arsenal's academy. That's what's got him to being at Hertha Berlin. And ultimately, there's positives in that, which is why we went for him in the summer, and why he's become so integral to how we play and become one of the first names on the team sheet. So I think it's just down to us managing that, so we don't end up losing him for those 3 games towards the end of the season, because we can't afford to lose him for 3 games. If that booking's going to come, make it come in the second to last game where we've got 1 game left. But yeah, I don't think we can ask a player to change his style that drastically, because he does live on the edge. So
I think it's interesting you talk about Kamara in a deeper lying role, because I don't think I struggle to see Scott playing there, because one thing I noticed from the game last night was that Kamara was pressed up really high when we were out of possession. It was him and Hepburn Murphy who were almost the front 2 pressing their defence, and I thought he did a really good job. I think he was almost in the team more for his off the ball work than what he brought on the ball. I thought he had a decent enough game anyway, but like his energy and the way he was closing down the defenders, I thought we did a really good job of pressing them as a team. We forced them into so many long balls, so many errors. It was really impressive, and he was a really important part of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Scott says, no, that's your job in the team. Your job, get up alongside whoever's up front, press, win the ball back. That is, and then we'll go from there. But
so maybe Liam Fraser is a more suitable candidate, probably. Then, to be fair, I think in terms of, I guess I was thinking more in terms of like your build. Ibrahim and Kamara probably of a similar build, but Liam Fraser equally, he's no slouch in that aspect. He's quite tall, challenges. He's been very good since he came in. He was very good last night as well. There was a couple of times on the ball where he got out of some precarious situations, and it was sort of like, wow, he's a proper footballer, Liam Fraser. He's no mug. So
he's very much
do the job.
He's really grown on me. As he's kind of got his sharpness up, you can really see the quality that he's got. I think that would make more sense. Yeah, Liam playing deeper.
Yeah. So, whilst the result necessarily didn't go our way, some of the results around us did, thankfully, although there were some that didn't. Luke, can we be hopeful at all here?
Do you know what? I think I'm actually more hopeful now than I was yesterday, in a way, because I think what I thought going into yesterday is think I know I predicted us to win. But I feel like if you take that game in isolation, this game happens. Well, apparently for us, lots of times in the season because we've had 4-4s and 4-3s aplenty this season, but they weren't in the way that they were yesterday, where we dominated arguably for 70 plus minutes of that game, and we really deserved to come away with 3 points. But no other team we're playing has 3 players like what Peterborough have, and I'm hopeful. I thought I still think we'll go down, sure, but I think we're going to be in. I think we'll be going into it with a couple of games left, sort of thing. I think we're going to be closer than what I thought we were going to be 2 weeks ago, for example. So, yeah, I don't think there's any reason to. I think it's just a case of enjoying it now. We get a win Saturday, suddenly there's a scope. We are still 3 points off. My concern for me now isn't necessarily if we can sort of catch Bristol Rovers, for example. It's actually if Burton carry on picking up points, it doesn't really matter what we do because the goal difference to them is so inferior that ultimately they just need to match us in a way, and they can afford to drop a point here or there because we're not going to win every game. But I actually think Burton now are the team we sort of need to try and be wary of because I don't think Bristol. I think Bristol Rovers are they can't buy a win at the moment, so I could see us catching them. I could see them finishing 22nd this season, Bristol Rovers, if they don't get a win or two soon. I think I could see us finishing 21st, but I could see Burton finishing 20th. So yeah, I think that's the concern now is maybe Burton Albion. If we're going to have any hope, we need to start seeing them drop some more points.
Luke,
yeah, so I'm just looking at when they've got a game in hand.
Yeah,
and their game in hand, I don't think it's until the 29th of April against Wigan. So it's interesting that final week.
so Tuesday before before the final weekend.
Yes, yeah. So Tuesday before the final weekend, they've got their game against Wigan.
That's a team you'd probably want to play as well, though. If I could pick a team to play in our run-in at home, I'd pick Wigan because Wigan don't score goals, and I'd fancy us against Wigan. They're resolute, sure, but they're not a particularly. They've had a bad season. They don't score many goals. So if I was Burton, I'd be quite happy that that's our game in hand fixture.
What I would say,
Ronan Darcy will do us a favour.
You reckon?
You'd hope.
I'll tell you what, go for it.
Yeah, you'd hope. What I would say is that the rest of Burton's fixtures, I know Burton are in a really good run of form. They've done really well under Gary Bowyer. But I think if I was to have anyone's fixtures, it'd probably be ours. If all the teams from sort of Northampton down, because I think we can probably rule out anyone else above Northampton get relegated. And Luke, I was going to say to you, I'm going to offer you some hope. You're saying there might only be one team dropping in. I wonder if Northampton. I've said all along, I think 2 teams could drop in because Northampton are not particularly impressive, and they have to play. They go to Reading. I think. Well, they host Reading and they go to Charlton, Northampton. So that's 2 games that you really wouldn't fancy them. And I just wonder if they're only 7 points ahead of us. So I just wonder if they could still be dragged back into it in a sense. But Burton go to Wrexham on the early kickoff on Saturday, which I wouldn't. I mean, do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if Burton win, just because they're in the it's that sort of game, and they are playing well. But Burton's fixtures aren't necessarily. And I just keep looking at the fixtures. I've spent so much time this week and the last couple of weeks looking at fixtures, trying to work out where teams might drop points. I really don't know. There's just a glimmer of hope for me, and I think if we go into the last couple of games when we're 1 or 2 points behind, I think I'd fancy us to win both our last games and do something. I think that's where I'm at right now.
I think we're probably, while 6 points seems a long way, I think a goal difference has helped hugely against Rotherham, scoring those 4 goals. I think
the goal difference isn't so much of a problem now.
Yeah, I think, because bear in mind, every single time we win, the goal difference is probably going to close by 1. I think Burton have got a tough game against Wrexham because Birmingham haven't quite won the league yet, and Wrexham will be wanting to get an automatic spot rather than go in the playoffs.
Burton has still got to play Birmingham, and they go to Charlton. Burton goes to Charlton on the last day, which Charlton may well have a playoff place wrapped up by then. But that's, as we know, that's a really tough game. So
then Rovers are playing Bolton.
Yeah.
And Bolton again fighting for that playoff spot.
Bristol Rovers is running his. Sorry, Reuben, I'm jumping in. Go on.
And then Northampton are playing Peterborough. So hopefully Peterborough on a bit of a high and absolutely destroy Northampton. I think, yeah.
Is it? Yeah, it is a derby, isn't it?
I think I was trying to think before you mentioned. I was like, I think it is.
Yeah, because there's Peterborough Cambridge and Peterborough Northampton. They're not. I don't know. They're not fond of each other. But what I was going to say is Bristol Rovers running is absolutely horrendous. They go to Bolton on Saturday, which Bolton are obviously scrapping for the playoffs. They go to Wrexham on Good Friday. They play Exeter at home in between, which you think they might pick up something there. They also play Reading and Blackpool's their last two fixtures. Two teams going for the playoffs, and Blackpool are probably the best attacking team in the league at the moment, alongside Peterborough. So, again, if it's the last two games, and you look at our last two fixtures, we've got Northampton at home and are almost definitely relegated, and will almost 99.9% sure they'll be relegated by the final day, Shrewsbury. So I just think it's our running that gives us a bigger chance than anything else. Our running, the fact that we're playing well, the confidence, the Scott Lindsay factor. I think the fans have certainly got some belief now. Yeah, after we went 1-0 up last night, and suddenly people, I heard it around me. We are staying up. And I thought, oh no, lads, you've gone too early there.
It's a death wish when you start singing that.
Yeah, and I just knew, oh, we're not going to win now. But it was. The belief's certainly there. Something has definitely changed within the mentality. We're just going for it. It's a backs against the wall. We're swinging. We're like a boxer. It feels like we're a boxer, a heavyweight boxer, like the 11th or 12th round. Just you're absolutely knackered. You're just swinging, hoping to land a few big punches. And yeah, I'm just looking. I've got all the run-ins up in front of me. I mean, Northampton. Yeah, like I said, they play Reading and Charlton as well. So Reading and Charlton could really do us a favour, considering Reading haven't done us many favours this season in terms of the games they've played against us. Yeah,
it's all about it. We got Northampton, the same Northampton who smashed us 3-0 back in October. It's like they are one of the worst teams in the league right now.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous, and it's like I think I don't think we can really look past. You shouldn't really look past your next game. But we've got Stevenage and then we've got Leyton Orient, I think, haven't we? Yeah, both teams who are really in different form, it feels like, at the moment. I don't think either of them is actually pulling up trees or sort of putting in performances where you think, should be really worried that that's going to be... like, every game's hard, but you go into those and think, yeah, we could feasibly still get 6 points and I wouldn't be really shocked at it. But we obviously still need to go and put the hard graft in and get those 6 points or 3 points from each game in the first place. But I think if we get 6 points from those, then I think because we could potentially be out of the relegation zone if we get 6 points from our next two fixtures, if other results go our way.
I mean, it's so tough. I keep looking at all the different run-ins for the teams around us and trying to work out where Bristol Rovers are going to drop points, where Northampton might drop points, where Burton are going to drop points, because we need them to slip up as well. Burton, they got Huddersfield to play, and I think I fancy Burton in that game because Huddersfield seems to just be a bit of a mess, despite us being very generous visitors the other week. And they've also got Cambridge and Wigan. I mean, yeah, to be fair, Burton's running isn't actually as bad as I thought. The fact is their problem is they go to Charlton and they go to Wrexham, and they're the two games where you look at, and they host Birmingham on Easter Monday, and you'd think they've got to be the opportunities that we need to take. So
Easter weekend could be huge, ultimately.
Easter weekend, it's meant to be relaxing, spend time with family, have a nice roast dinner, have some chocolate. And it's just going to be so stressful. I
don't think it is. I think it depends. We could be out of it by the time we go to Birmingham. If we lose the next two fixtures, then ultimately we're down, I think. So it's sort of like, well, I think we're down. I still think we're getting relegated, but I think we're just going to be able to take it closer than where we were. But let me pose a question to you guys. Why is it for the last few months we've been sitting here saying these players don't seem to be good enough, but then suddenly you've got Scott Lindsay turning around saying, I don't understand how these players are in this position because they're so much better than where they are in the league. And it's like, what, two things. Football's football fans are fickle. We're all fickle because it's silly. Why would you put yourself through the pain that we put ourselves through every Saturday and Tuesday for 90 minutes and like games like last night? But why are we sitting here not 3 weeks on from one of the worst away performances of a lifetime, one of the worst first halves of a lifetime, and yet 3 weeks later we've gone and won 4-0 at Rotherham, put in 2.5, 3 fantastic performances worthy of winning any game of football. Like what has who? Because it can only be Scott Lindsay, can it not only be Scott Lindsay and whoever he's brought in as the reason why? Because it's the same players. So what has happened before to change now in that short space of time? I can't fathom it.
I think it's a confidence thing. I think you've got to remember that when Lindsay left the first time, we'd lost 5 or 6 games on the bounce.
Yeah, exactly.
And so for Rob, who's a new manager, to take that, he probably didn't really know what to say and to be able to build up that confidence. However, then Scott's come in and has been able to rejuvenate the confidence in the squad. And we saw how confident we were playing over the past 3 games, which I think is testimony to Scott and the work that he's done. And so, I don't think they're bad players. And if I was to say which players would I remove from the squad and change for particular other players, I'd be like, it'd actually be hard to choose because I think individually, most of them are pretty good players. It's just, we have never really clicked until that confidence has come back the past few games.
I think that part of it is a confidence thing, and I think that's a massive thing. But also, I think there's an element of availability, and we've spoken so much about the injuries and the bad luck that Rob had with not having certain players fit. But Scott said something before the Bristol Rovers game where he said, we had 25 players in training on Friday, on the day before. And I'm thinking, how many times would Rob have had that that sort of luxury, if you like, of having everyone fit? And
why is that though?
I didn't even know we had 25 players. When it said 25, I was thinking, hold on a minute. I think having that consistency, he's been able to play a largely unchanged team 3 games in a row. I don't think Rob ever had that. And on that point, I wonder if part of it was deliberate. I think Rob was quite a reactive coach. He would always chop and change based on what he thought the opposition would do and try and react to the opposition, which works at times. We did get some good performances out of it and some good results. I stand by that. I know kind of the last 3 games have sort of made Rob's tenure look even worse than it did already in the eyes of some people, and that's fair enough. But whereas Scott's just gone, do you know what, we're going to play our way. I think Scott's very much more just, right, we're going to play our way. We've got our way of playing, we've got our system, our way of doing things, and the opposition are going to have to react to us. And I think that's a big difference. I think having the confidence to do that, rather than saying, right, well, we know so-and-so are really good at this, so we're going to chop and change. Because it makes it hard to build up any sort of relationships on the pitch, any sort of partnerships defensively or in midfield in particular, where we always looked very disjointed under Rob for probably the majority of the time, I would say. And so I wonder if Scott's kind of putting there's a bit of stability into tactically and personnel wise with Scott that wasn't necessarily there for Rob, either through injuries and suspensions and also partly by his own design in terms of being quite a reactive coach to the opposition and trying to sort of preempt what they were doing. So I think there's a lot of factors, but they're 2 things that I've kind of noticed over the last couple of games where I thought, this feels really different to what Rob was doing. And we're not trying to react to the opposition. We're not, and it helps that we've had most of the squad fit as well, which wasn't always the case.
Yeah, and Flint coming back as well.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
So just in that relegation battle, I think one thing we should probably mention is just about Reading and the potential effects that their owner not selling up might have. I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen, but there's stuff like all of their results being null and void. I was just having a look now at Burton. I think they've got 3 points from Reading.
We've only got one. So I'm wondering. I mean, what I will say is I would rather get relegated than stay up, because Reading have been expelled from the league. I think it's a horrible thing to happen. It's a sad indictment of the EFL and the fit and proper persons test, which is just a sham. And if it means we go back into League Two, but Reading have a football club, I'd be okay with that personally. And I know that might sound a bit strange. Oh, surely you want to stay up. Not at the expense of another club's existence. I think that I certainly. I mean, we've been there ourselves as Crawley fans. We know we've been an hour away from going out of business. So we more than anyone, we know what it's like. And I think I'd hate to. It wouldn't feel right. I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't feel like celebrating if we stayed up on a technicality like that. That's just my
that's very kind of you, Louie.
I've jumped in there, but that's my instinctive kind of like reaction to it.
Yeah. So guess we'll see.
When's the decision? Is it a couple of days or is it May?
I think it's meant to be by Saturday that he has to sell up.
So I'm hearing stuff will come out this Thursday.
Yeah.
About it. But potentially decision might not be made until May.
I don't think it'll affect us regardless. You know what happened when what happened with Bury happened. I don't think anyone survived that season. They just ultimately changed how many got relegated and how many got promoted. I know it's a different story because I think Bury were rock bottom anyway. Potentially, I can't remember how it works, but yeah, ultimately, no one's going to wish ill on Reading for our expense, for example. The EFL are ultimately only now doing everything they can, which is great, but potentially too little, too late. When ultimately, Reading have been screaming about this for a long time, and wider football has as well. And the EFL needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror come the end of this situation. But hopefully it won't come to needing to worry about what happens to Reading at the end of the season. Hopefully, I'm sure there'll still be a League One club next season, or potentially Championship if they carry on this 5-run of form. But hopefully someone comes and saves them from their current predicament.
Yeah. And it's slightly trivial given sort of the situation they face, but I really could do with one less thing to think about in terms of the relegation battle. I don't want to be thinking about the implications. Like, it's just my brain's full of run-ins and points and point tallies, and I don't want to be thinking about what happens if. It's just more maths and more thinking that I'm not really capable of at this stage of the season.
Next spreadsheets.
Honestly, it's gonna come to that point.
I'm just thinking about. I'm just praying we don't get Barrow on the opening day away next season. Is all I'm hoping for.
Nailed on. If we do go down,
at least it won't be Carlisle.
Yes, that is true. Yeah,
and we may avoid Morecambe as well. Morecambe away next season, although they are picking up some points. But anyway,
we could get the location of Cabby Dejale's only goal away.
Cheltenham, yeah.
At Cheltenham, yeah. Just down the road from me. Roll out of bed, be there within 10 minutes. Amazing.
Yeah, that'll be Now you're an exiled Red now.
Yeah, I know.
You're on the wrong podcast.
Yeah. So, going around the club then, moving away from the fixtures, the club have introduced a deal for the last 4 games. So you've missed this deal if you've only just heard about it. Sorry. Basically giving a reduced price over the course of the 4 games, which, considering ticket prices were already pretty good, I think this is great news. There was also the passing of Audrey Turnbull, who was the former club treasurer and who, with her husband, is a club legend and basically helped to run the club, particularly during its town meet days. So our thoughts and our prayers are with her family during this time. but it's nice to see all the players wearing black armbands
that was really
at the
good.
game. Do they do like a minute applause or anything? Or silence?
No, I don't think a minute
No.
applause. Well, no, I don't believe a minute applause took place. But really nice touch from the club to go and do that. Yeah, that was really nice to see.
Yeah, and also whilst preparing for this, I was doing my due diligence of the Crawley Town website to see what news I might have missed. And apparently 5 days ago, Crawley have signed up to a brand new financial exchange partner called Affinity. And it says that it aims to provide seamless currency exchange and tailored financial solutions for corporate, SMEs, and high net worth individuals. So I've got no idea how this might link to Crawley, but good news, Luke.
Well, as you know, Reuben, I am very up to date in my financial exchange and foreign exchange affairs. So why are you asking me? No, I have no idea. I have no idea. As a regular fan, it doesn't appeal to sort of me. It's not for me. I don't understand it. So it's obviously not catered for sort of your Joe Blogs matchday fan. There must be a audience for it. The club get money for this transaction, and ultimately the sponsor get eyes on the thing for business owners who maybe go to Crawley, etc., etc. So, it all comes down to networking, etc. I think it could be good for both parties, but I don't know. I don't know how long the deal's for. I don't know if it's a long-term thing, if it's a short-term thing. It could explain certain things, like why there's such unsurety about how much Benjamin Tanamu cost us. But yeah, the club felt like it was obviously something we needed. So you have to, I guess, trust those in commercial, now that we've got commercial people involved, that it's a deal worth doing, and will only better us in the long term. So we'll see, I guess, or maybe we won't. I don't know what it will do for us, but yeah, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder whether, because it's fairly public that the club are trying to set out buy players a lot more from abroad. So we've signed Fraser from the States. We've signed Tolashwami. Is he injured, by the way?
Thought so. I thought he pulled out of a game recently. He obviously had his 3-game ban, didn't he? And then, yeah, I don't know.
But anyways, we've got him from America. We got Jeremy Kelly from America. We've got Tanemu from Tanzania or wherever it is. And so whether that's part of it, just trying to make sure they get the best exchange rates when they're making these transfers, rather than popping down to the local post office and asking for 700,000 Tanzanian dollars in pounds. Who knows?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's probably quite likely just to make any sort of foreign transactions, like probably just to make that easier. But the CEO of this Affinity Exchange is actually my cousin.
Huh.
So I was aware of this deal a couple of weeks ago before it went onto the website. I bumped into him on my way home one day, and he was very pleased and very excited to actually be partnering with the club. He's built his own business. It's his own business. He's worked really hard on it. And I sound like I'm doing an advertisement for him or something. I swear I'm not. But I just thought I'd add a bit of colour and context.
Well, we're not getting paid for it, so
no.
Stop.
But he's worked really hard to build his business up and to build his portfolio up. He's incredibly hardworking, and so in terms of he was very excited to be working with the club. So in that sense, I think it's probably quite positive, and it's good. He's a local lad. He's been living in Crawley since he was 8 or 9, I think.
But described him as a Crawley Town fan, which I was about to say is it's nice that there's sort of fans.
Yeah, he's a local lad, and
club,
I think it's a good thing to have. The club getting back involved with local businesses or business people, because I think that's one thing that the club has kind of lost over the last couple of years. I know local businesses have not been driven away. I don't want to say driven away, but those relationships haven't necessarily been strengthened.
There's been an alienation
or maintained
between the club.
Those relationships haven't been maintained, and it's good that something is being done to kind of build up those relationships again. That'd be my take on it.
Well, yeah. Look, I just want to jump in and say, look, I think it shows, and hopefully this is where that James Ball comes in as the head of partnerships for the club. It shows that there's a wealth of business going on in Crawley. We've got the sort of Manor Royal kind of thing. I don't really know what a huge benefit that is to us, or if that's sort of just a advertisement thing that we do there. But then we've obviously got the Rentokil thing, who are based in Crawley at the moment, which I'm almost surprised that hasn't happened before with how big they are and stuff. I thought, and especially going forward, hopefully that will be potentially a longer term thing as well. And
that's been very effective advertising for them, by the way, because every time I go into a toilet or like a public toilet, like a pub or something, I see the Rentokil like hair dryers or like their advertising. So that and I've never noticed it before. So they're getting their money's worth. Not that I'm buying their products or anything. I'm not going around buying hair dryers, but I'm noticing their brand in a lot more places than I was. It would be in like a random pub or restaurant or wherever. Because that's the large part of what they do is.
But we should be reaching out to the businesses of Crawley a lot more, because there's such a wealth of people here. We've got this deal over the line now, which is beneficial, and another local business got Rentokil on board. Like Manor Royal's not shy of businesses who must want, could have involvement in the club one way or the other. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully this is the start of. With Rentokil and this, we'll see a growing increase through this revenue stream.
Yeah. And today's podcast has been brought to you by Affinity and Rentokil. Totally joking.
Well, it's about time we start getting some sponsors.
Yeah, I know. So thanks very much, Luke and Louie, for joining me on this 31st episode of Season 2 of the Crawley Town Supporters Alliance Simply Reds podcast. And we'll hopefully see some of you at Stevenage. So come on, you Reds.
Come on, you Reds.